Well, I think it's very clear that these results are very politically significant. They're an earthquake in terms of our understanding of Moroccan politics. And for me, at least, there's two big takeaways. First of all, they are very clearly a vote of no confidence in the PJD, the Islamist party that has been the dominant force in the Moroccan government, the majority party that has formed the government for the last decade, has presided over a lackluster economy, a failure to thrive in many aspects, and the results of the election are really a demonstration of a lack of satisfaction on the part of the Moroccan people with the PJD's stewardship of the country's economy as a result. The second is that this was really a vote of confidence in the country's king, in the Moroccan monarch, because what you've seen over the last 2 years has been some really dramatic foreign policy moves on the part of Mohammed VI with regard to the normalization of relations with Israel, with regard to an expansion of his so-called Southern strategy of greater economic engagement with Africa. These are all comparatively risky moves that the kingdom has made in terms of expanding its foreign policy horizons. And the voter is responding. And what we heard loud and clear from the electoral results is that the Moroccan electorate is broadly supportive of these initiatives. They're not looking to rein them in, they're looking to strengthen them. No, I think sort of it's very much a healthy evolution of this process. The hallmark of a vibrant, politically pluralistic society is that when a part of the society is underperforming, they get replaced, they get renewed and rejuvenated and replaced by a more dynamic element. And that's precisely what we saw. We saw a PJD that was underperforming. There was a lot of discontent with the way the PJD was managing cultural norms, societal norms, wasn't responding economically. And so the electoral results demonstrate this. They demonstrate that the voter wanted a more responsive, more nimble, more representative government to drive the country in the years ahead. Well, I don't think it was change for change's sake, right? I mean, in American politics, there's very much many times there's this sort of this desire change just to have change, and there's really not a lot of substance that goes behind it. But here, look, we had a decade where the PJD was given a chance to prove out its social platform, to prove out its economic platform. They were found to be, frankly, subpar. They weren't meeting the expectations of most Moroccans. And so there was plenty of time for the PJD to perform up to expectations. They didn't do that. And so the electoral results, I think, demonstrate that the Moroccan electorate really wanted not change for change's sake, but real change. Well, no, I think that's a great question. And look, it's impossible to know what the future will bring, but I think those examples are vastly different from what Morocco experienced. Because in the example of Algeria, in the example of Egypt, what you had was a Islamist party that was denied, it believed, the opportunity to govern and radicalized as a result. In Morocco, you had an Islamist party that was given the opportunity to govern and failed. And the people have spoken and said that the Islamists have failed. That is a much more profound rejection than simply having the military of the country tell them that they can't govern anymore. And that's why I think that the results of the election from last week in Morocco are going to be much more lasting, and they're going to be much more durable in the sort of the broad sweep of Middle Eastern politics than what we've seen in other places in North Africa. Look, I think when we start looking regionally, right, at sort of not just Africa, not just North Africa, but sort of the broad sweep of the greater Middle East, we see emerging democracies at sort of every level of development, and there's no question in my mind that Morocco is very far along comparatively along that spectrum, where you have a established democratic process, where you have free and fair, transparent elections that really hand over institutions without the sort of hiccups that we've seen in other parts of the continent. And, you know, I think it's a testament to the durability and the stability of Moroccan society that this election went by. There was a tremendous amount of comparative political upheaval as a result of this, right? There's a lot of political change that's going to result as a result of this, but really there's not a lot of worries about instability as a result of these changes. That's a testament to Moroccan democracy. Right. Look, I think it's very clear on the metrics that matter. Those numbers are enormously significant, right? And to me, the metric that matters is whether local populations accept the legitimacy of the structure as it exists. The Moroccan kingdom for a long time has talked about this system of advanced autonomy, where there's a structure of sort of delegated federalism and the idea of sort of mostly independent confederation. And it's a system that a lot of people have railed against. Certainly there's been a lot of opposition to the idea of Moroccan sovereignty over the Western Sahara. But where it really matters is among the local population. And the electoral results demonstrate that the Sahrawis, where it actually matters, the local populations actually buy into this system. And they're willing to participate in the Moroccan electoral process, and they're willing to do that in pretty large numbers. And that suggests to me, more than anything that the commentators say, that the system is working. Well, I mean, look, they can object as much as they want, but the returns from the election, the percentage of Sahrawis that actually participated, demonstrate that the majority of the local population in the Western Sahara don't actually think the way the Polisario does. They're part of the system. They see themselves as part of this structure. They don't see themselves as a separate entity. They see themselves as part of this, frankly, quite vibrant, democratic, pluralistic structure that's evolving and changing. I would argue that that's a good thing. That's something we should encourage. This is obviously a terrible incident, and I think it demonstrates both the promise and the peril that Morocco finds itself in. Because on the one hand, it's very clear that the Moroccan system is thriving and it's evolving and it's very vibrant compared to its neighbors, compared to the rest of the region. But Morocco is situated in a very unstable region, and it's a region that's, quite frankly, becoming more unstable. What we're seeing is an uptick of violence and instability throughout Africa, in particular in the Lake Chad region, in particular in places along the Sahel. And so it becomes imperative not only for Morocco to safeguard its hard-won political gains, but also for Morocco to take its experience and translate it into foreign policy engagement in a way that stabilizes the region. Because the Moroccan example can be a stabilizing one for the region. It's not sufficient for Morocco to sort of be an exception. It has to be a model as well. And that's becoming increasingly clear as we see more and more that weak states in North and Central Africa are attracting the kind of instability that caused the violence of recent days, that are causing growing concern from the international community. Here, I think Morocco is positioned to be a really significant partner. I think as someone who, watches Moroccan politics quite a bit, I was remarkably struck by the message that was sent by the Moroccan people from the elections last week. And it's something that, as somebody who is in a minority in the sense that I watch North African politics closely, I found very profound. And, I've called the attention of my colleagues to it as well. And I hope more and more people pay attention and to sort of that message gains more resonance in Washington.